There's nothing better than taking like 10 NyQuil shots before bed, or sucking on those disgusting cough drops that make your tongue just so dry that it feels like it's gonna fall off. Well, yeah, there are a number of better things, honestly, but I'm kind of contemplating getting sick. Not because I feel like I'm getting sick, but there's a lot of people that are getting sick at work, and you know how that goes. The bug just goes around. I'm hoping that it doesn't cross over to me because I have a ton of plans going into like the next couple of weeks. But anyways, let's get serious here, because there is kind of a serious topic floating around there, and you just know that your boy had to go out there and cover it and talk about it and just angrily rant about the entire situation. So as of the moment of this recording, there are multiple different sources confirming, or I guess a soft confirmation, that Hasbro will be upping their retail price for their basic Marvel Legends action figures as well as their basic G.I. Joe action figures. They're going from $24.99 to now officially $27.99 if I'm not mistaken. And in case you guys are wondering where the sources are, I guess they're everywhere. I've seen them on Facebook. I've seen a few posts here and there on social media, YouTube. But if you want something that's a little bit more set in stone, definitely check out Toy News International, because they do a great job of covering action figure content or just action figure news in general. They're always a website that I like to check out. Them and ToyArk, they're just great sources for action figure news. Now, having said all of that, it's going to get really interesting within the next few months, because we only have confirmation for the regular basic Marvel Legends action figures at that $27.99 price point. We don't know about like retro carded lines. Are those going to bump up a little bit? We also don't know about the deluxe action figures, as well as the, I'm not sure what the line is called, but the super mega deluxe figures, like the Gamerverse Venom, that gigantic Odin figure. Like, are those going to also be price adjusted? Not to mention, they're starting to launch new lines. For example, that Magic and Marvel Legends crossover line, is that also going to continue to go up in price? It's going to get very interesting within the next few months. Now, we already know that a lot of manufacturers were going through this. McFarlane did it without really announcing anything. I think most of their DC Multiverse action figures have gone up to like $24.99. A lot of their DC Direct stuff is up to $27.99. The collector's edition line, depending on where you're picking it up from, can range now. It used to be $30. Now it's $35 to $38. And that's another topic worth talking about, because we all know, and I've covered this now for the last few years, Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, GameStop, so on and so forth, all of these smaller online retailers, which, by the way, are a great source for action figures, but they all have a slight adjustment when it comes down to prices. Let's say back in the day when a Marvel Legends action figure, well, I should say in modern day, they're going for $25 before the price hike. Usually Entertainment Earth or Big Bad Toy Store or GameStop would have a small markup. So it would be anywhere from like $28 to $30 compared to like Amazon, Best Buy, and some of the other retailers like Hasbro Pulse, where they would have them for $25. Same thing with, for example, the DC Multiverse action figures. Some of them are supposed to retail for $25. They have them for $28. The new Elite Edition line from McFarlane, for example, the Doomslayer, is supposed to retail for $50. It's now being offered at $60 from multiple different sellers. I've even seen it for as high as $15, which is, or $65, which is a $15 markup. And the list goes on and on. There are great examples of them just marking up collectibles. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the retailer being greedy, which I don't think so. I just feel like they're much smaller. They don't purchase as much from these manufacturers, and so they can't get the deals that, say, like Amazon or Walmart or Target may be able to acquire, because they're probably purchasing like pallets and pallets of these collectibles. They probably ship them directly to the warehouse, and then from there they'll ship them to each individual store. So it's going to get, as I mentioned, very interesting moving forward. This is all coming on the heels of the whole tariff nonsense, and I know people don't like to hear me talk about tariffs, and a lot of people get uncomfortable, or they feel like I'm just pulling stuff out of my rear end. But if you guys are interested in hearing it from a different perspective, Toy News International, whoever wrote the article, I'm not really too familiar with the website or, you know, who runs it. But from my understanding, the person that actually wrote the article makes a pretty good mention in there. They don't go too in depth, but they do make a mention of the tariffs being a huge point of emphasis, okay? And just to clarify, I didn't write the article, okay? I'm not like secretly running Toy News International. I don't have any affiliation to the website. So if you guys want it from a completely different point of view, or from somebody that's completely irrelevant to my channel, you guys can check out that article, because they actually do make a mention of how this entire situation is definitely being fueled by the whole tariffs, because it's just causing so many problems within the market. It's also another point of emphasis that the people at the control, the people at the helm, were stating that these tariffs were to kind of punish some of the overseas companies for manufacturing stuff overseas, or I should say just companies in general that manufactured overseas. But I don't see that at all. It seems like the consumer is the one that's essentially going to pay for all of the tariffs. The companies are not going to hurt at all. They're going to be good. They're going to be in the clean. They're going to pass all of the extra costs onto the consumer, which just doesn't make any sense to me. This is absolute buffoonery. I'm sorry if people are offended that I speak against the tariffs, but it just doesn't make any sense. It's only affecting the consumer's wallet. Now, a lot of people are going to say it's just action figures, but you're going to see it in a lot of different areas, I think, going forward. We don't cover other stuff, but it's definitely going to adjust the prices on shoes, cars, any type of manufacturing that isn't done here in the States. It's definitely going to affect it, whether that's produce, so on and so forth. So like I said, it's only going to continue to get worse. Now, I know a lot of people hate on Hasbro, but they are one of the manufacturers that waited the longest. McFarlane did it a few months ago. I want to say even like close to a year ago. NECA's been doing it now. They adjusted their regular NECA figures that usually were priced, I believe, at $34.99. They've been getting sold at $38 up to $40 on some websites, and then the list just goes on. I think the SH Figuarts, those basic SH figures that were going for $34.99, also got marked up to about like $38 to $39. That's been happening in the background. Nobody's really announcing the new price hikes. Nobody's really pushing it to the forefront. That's what really, I think, gets under the skin of a lot of consumers, because these manufacturers are just not saying it. They're just kind of like low-key raising the prices and hoping that most of the consumers just stay quiet or don't really address it. But it's happening, and nobody's really talking about it. I think a lot of people are just afraid, or a lot of these manufacturers or a lot of these big companies are afraid to speak against the tariffs, and that just leaves the consumer out in the wild, or out in the wind, wondering exactly what it is that's going on. Why are these prices continuing to increase when the quality isn't really getting that much better, and some of these figures are coming with next to nothing in terms of accessories. Now, and this is coming from somebody that isn't necessarily like a Hasbro fanboy. If there's anything that needs to be criticized, I've criticized them in the past, but I do believe like the last year or the last 2 years has potentially given us some of the best action figures that we've ever received. And what I mean by that is they're giving us like end-all versions of certain characters, like the new retro carded Miles Morales. That has a few issues here and there, like no toe joints. Some of the plastic is a little bit gummy, but that figure was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. It's easily the best Miles Morales action figure we've ever received, or just in general, maybe the best Spider-Man figure we've ever received. The list goes on. You have the Scarlet Spider. I think that's the end-all version, and we're probably not going to need a new one for the next 5 to 6 years. Toe articulation, great technology, so on and so forth. We just got the new Agent Venom retro carded version, which I know has its limitations, has its problems, but it's like leagues ahead of the Walgreens exclusive Agent Venom that we got back in the day. So Hasbro's been actually having a pretty good stretch. You know, within that time frame, there have also been some absolute duds, stuff that nobody wants, stuff that gets put on clearance, but they've also had some absolute bangers mixed in there. And I don't know, it's a shame. It's a shame that the news cycle is now going to kind of turn. Well, I think if enough content creators or enough people address it, this entire community is going to turn a little bit on Hasbro and the other manufacturers, and they're going to want answers. They're going to demand some responses from them, which at this point, they're not really talking about it, unless there's some interviews that I'm missing here and there. I don't really watch too many interviews. I don't really watch McFarlane getting grilled on YouTube too often. I've watched a few here and there, but I'm kind of interested to see if anybody is addressing this, if anybody is raising concerns, or if anybody is just coming out and making comments on it. So Only time will tell. I think eventually we'll get some more answers if the community demands it. But at the time of this recording, as I said, we only have confirmation for the base model Marvel Legends action figures at $27.99. But I think within the next few weeks, everything's going to go up. I think the deluxe figures are going to go up. They might even have anything that's like part of a Build-A-Figure. Maybe that even has a bigger increase. Not to mention, as I already said before, the retailers are going to have their extra markup. If the $27.99 price point stays, Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, GameStop, some of their base prices are going to be close to like $31, $32 because they tend to mark up their figures by about $3 to $4 to $5. So just assume that if you're going to buy from Big Bad, you're going to be paying about like low 30s, $31, $32. If you're comfortable with that, great. But I think our fandom is definitely going to be tested within the next few months. But as always, this is just my personal take, my personal opinion. I'm very curious to see what all of you guys have to say. Have you guys heard of this price hike? Are you okay with it? Do you disagree with it? If you do, let me know down below in the comment section. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned. We upload random action figure content pretty consistently, and we're starting to do it more and more consistently, which is something that I think we're a little bit proud of, because back in the day it was very difficult to do, but nowadays we kind of have we found a little bit of a rhythm, and we've been doing a decent job of it. So stay safe, stay tuned. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.